Welcome back, and thank you for tuning into Cheating Tales Lab. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world are you watching from right now. Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story. The late September sun cast long shadows through the kitchen window as Alan Taylor scrubbed concrete residue from his weathered hands. 25 years of construction work had left them calloused and strong, each scar a testament to projects completed and promises kept. He glanced at the clock. 4:15 p.m. Ryan would be at soccer practice until 6, leaving him time to review the Thompson project estimates. A phone buzzed insistently on the granite countertop, its screen lighting up with repeated notifications. Ryan's iPhone, forgotten in his typical teenage rush to practice. Alan might have ignored it, but the preview snippets catching his eye made his chest tighten. Dad doesn't even. Jason said we could. Mom thinks. The fragments were enough. Alan's hands, steady enough to level a beam or lay perfect tilework, trembled as he picked up the phone. The messages between Ryan and his best friend Kevin scrolled endlessly upward, each one a fresh blow. No, Dad's clueless about Mom's new lover. Ryan had texted Kevin that morning. Jason drives that new BMW M4, the one we saw at the dealership. He lets me drive it in empty lots after school. Way cooler than Dad's old pickup. Says I've got natural talent. Kevin's response popped up. Damn bro, your mom's boss? That's wild. Your dad really doesn't know? Nah, he's too busy with his precious construction sites. Mom says he wouldn't notice if she danced naked in front of him with sparklers. Jason brings me lunch every Wednesday and Friday. Got us courtside Lakers tickets for next weekend. Dad thinks I'm at SAT prep with Kevin. Alan's jaw clenched, the muscle twitching as he scrolled through weeks of messages. His son and wife's betrayal unfolded in casual texts, as if dismantling his life was nothing more than teenage gossip. Jason's teaching me to golf next weekend, another message read. Says it's important for business networking. Dad just goes on about honest work and calluses tell your story. Such boomer advice. The final message in the thread made Alan sink heavily into one of the kitchen chairs he'd built himself. TBH, I prefer Jason more as a dad than my current one. He actually listens when I talk about college. Dad just lectures about working your way up and earning things yourself. Like, welcome to 2024, old man. Jason says networking and connections matter more than grunt work. The sound of the garage door opening startled Alan. May wasn't due home for hours. He quickly replaced the phone exactly as he'd found it, his mind racing. The kitchen door opened, and his wife breezed in, designer handbag swinging from her arm. Oh, Alan, you're home early. May's smile faltered slightly. She wore a fitted blazer and skirt that probably cost more than a week's worth of his labor. I thought you had that big project in Beverly Hills today? Finished ahead of schedule. Alan's voice remained steady, betraying none of the turmoil beneath. The crew really came together. Good men. Reliable. The emphasis on the last word was subtle but present. May's perfectly manicured fingers fiddled with her car keys. That's nice, honey. I just forgot some paperwork. The dealership's been crazy with end-of-quarter sales. Must be. Selling a lot of M4s? The question hung in the air like smoke. What? BMWs, Ryan mentioned them. Alan stood slowly, his frame filling the kitchen doorway. Seems he's quite the expert these days. Color drained from May's face. Oh, well, teenagers and cars. She clutched her handbag closer. I should get back. Jason, Mr. Martinez, needs these contracts. Jason. Alan rolled the name around like a bitter pill. Your new sales manager. The one taking my son driving. Teaching him golf. Buying Lakers tickets. May's facade cracked. How did you? Have you been spying on me? Spying? Alan's laugh held no humor. Ryan left his phone. Seems our son's quite proud of his new mentor. He stepped closer, voice dropping. Tell me, May, does Jason know you're spending the college fund I earned on your little midlife crisis? It's not like that. May's voice rose shrilly. You're never here. Always working, covered in dirt and concrete. Jason understands what? How to spend another man's money. How to play father with another man's son. Alan's voice remained level, but his eyes blazed. While I'm covered in dirt building our future, you're letting some car salesman destroy it. May's chin lifted defiantly. Jason's a finance manager now. He has ambition, plans. He's taking Ryan to tour colleges next month. With my money. Alan's interruption cut like steel. Every dollar you're spending on your boyfriend? I earned that installing drywall at midnight, laying tile through weekends, building houses for other families while you complained about my hours. You don't understand modern business, Alan. Ryan needs connections, opportunity. What Ryan needs, Alan's words fell like hammer blows, is to learn the difference between men who build things and men who sell them. Guess we're all about to learn that lesson. May stepped back, suddenly uncertain. What do you mean? Alan simply smiled, the expression never reaching his eyes. You should get back to work. Jason's waiting. He turned away, effectively dismissing her. Oh, and May? Hope that fancy blazer keeps you warm. Winter's coming. The threat in his tone finally registered. May hurried out, heels clicking rapidly across the garage concrete. Alan waited until her car pulled away before pulling out his phone. His fingers no longer trembled as he dialed. Phil? Alan Taylor. Remember that contingency plan we discussed last year? Time to execute. And Phil? Every account. Leave nothing. Phil Terrell's office smelled of leather and aged wood, a stark contrast to the dust and sawdust Alan typically surrounded himself with. The accountant pulled up digital statements on his dual monitors while Alan sat across the mahogany desk, still in his work boots and construction-worn jeans. The money trail's clear as day, Phil said, turning one screen toward Alan. May's been accessing the joint accounts regularly for business lunches at Mastro's Steakhouse, 2 to 3 times a week, averaging $200 per visit. He clicked through several transactions. The pattern started 3 months ago, right when this Jason Martinez joined Luxury Motors as their sales manager. Alan leaned forward, studying the dates. Show me Ryan's expenses. Phil pulled up another statement. Private school lunch account shows doubled spending. 2 lunches charged most days. High-end restaurants delivered to the school. He adjusted his glasses. There's more. Concert tickets, sports events, golf club memberships all charged to your joint credit cards. The college fund remains untouched, but she's been making inquiries about early withdrawal options. Lock it down, Alan ordered. Transfer everything to the new accounts we set up. I want it done before the banks close today. Phil nodded, fingers flying over his keyboard. The business accounts are secure. She never had access to those. Smart move keeping Taylor Construction separate. He paused, looking at Alan over his glasses. But you should know she tried accessing them last week. Called pretending to be your secretary, wanted information about your contracts and billing. Alan's jaw tightened. The Thompson project? She asked specifically about it. Wanted to know the payment schedule. That's a $3 million contract. Alan stood, pacing the office. She's not just sleeping with him, they're planning something. Phil swiveled in his chair. There's more. I did some digging on Jason Martinez. He's got a pattern. 3 dealerships in 5 years, each time leaving after getting involved with married clients. 2 harassment complaints, both settled quietly. His BMW? Leased under the dealership's name. He's all show, no substance. Show's about to end. Alan pulled out his phone, scrolling through his contacts. You know Jane Hammond? The divorce attorney? Sharp as they come. Took her client's cheating husband for everything last year. Even got his boat. Phil smiled grimly. Want her number? Got it. Did a custom garage for her last spring. Alan paused at the office door. Phil, I need one more thing. Pull every receipt, every bank statement from the last 20 years. Every hour I worked, every dollar I earned. I want a paper trail showing exactly how we built this life. Already on it. Phil held up a thumb drive. Digital copies here. Your wife's spending spree these past months? Makes quite a contrast to your deposit records. 16-hour days, weekend jobs, all documented. No judge will miss the message. Alan pocketed the drive. Send everything to Jane. And Phil? Thank you for having my back all these years. You're one of the good ones, Alan. Built your business honest, paid your taxes clean. Can't say the same for this Jason character. Phil turned back to his computer. His credit report's interesting. Man's leverage to his eyeballs. Bet the dealership doesn't know about his gambling debts. Walking to his truck, Alan called Jane Hammond's office. Her secretary recognized his name immediately. The custom garage had made quite an impression. Mr. Taylor? Ms. Hammond can see you at 4. The law office occupied the top floor of a building Alan's company had renovated years ago. Jane Hammond greeted him with a firm handshake, her designer suit a power statement rather than a fashion choice like May's. Phil sent over the files, she said, leading him to a conference room overlooking the city. I reviewed everything. Have to say, Mr. Taylor, you've given me a lot to work with. Call me Alan. He settled into a chair, boots scuffing the plush carpet. What's my next move? Jane spread documents across the table. You've already made the smart plays. Securing assets, documenting the affair, protecting the business. She tapped a legal pad. But timing is crucial. Your wife's spending suggests they're getting bolder. The inquiries about business accounts? They might be planning something bigger. The college fund? Currently safe. Your documentation proves you earned it through documented construction work. Her recent behavior demonstrates financial irresponsibility. Jane pulled out a highlighted document. But we need to move fast. Once she realizes the accounts are locked, she'll lawyer up. I want it done right, Alan stated. By the book. I built everything I have with these hands. Won't let them tear it down. Here's what we'll do. Jane outlined the strategy, each point precise as architectural plans. File first. Claim abandonment and adultery. Your evidence is solid. The texts from your son? She shook her head. Those will hit hard in court. Judges don't look kindly on parental alienation. Alan absorbed the details, asking pointed questions about custody, asset division, and timeline. As the meeting concluded, Jane had one final question. The house you mentioned, you built it yourself? Every nail, every board. Spent 5 years of weekends on it while working full-time. Perfect. Jane made a final note. That's another point in our favor. Sweat equity has value in court. She closed her folder. Go home, Alan. Act normal. Let us get everything in place. When we move, it'll be decisive. The drive home gave Alan time to think. The setting sun cast long shadows across the city, not unlike the morning's kitchen scene that felt a lifetime ago. He pulled into a hardware store parking lot, decision made. 20 minutes later, he walked out with a new toolbox, an exact replica of the one that had taught Ryan his first lessons about building things. The old one would go with him tonight, but its replacement would stay, waiting, a silent message about legacies and choices. Some lessons, after all, took time to build. Evening shadows lengthened across the driveway as Alan loaded essential items into his work truck. The replica toolbox sat in the garage, positioned exactly where the original had rested for 17 years. He worked methodically, selecting what to take: documents, family photos predating May's betrayal, his father's weathered carpentry journals. The house phone rang. May's mother, Elizabeth. Alan, dear. Is May there? She's not answering her cell. Working late, he replied, voice neutral. End of quarter at the dealership. Oh. Elizabeth paused. She mentioned a new manager's been keeping everyone busy. Jason something? Said he's revolutionizing their sales approach. Alan's grip tightened on the phone. Did she mention the Lakers tickets too? Or just the business dinners? What do you? Elizabeth stopped abruptly. Understanding colored her tone. Oh, Alan. Please tell me she didn't. Ask her yourself, Elizabeth. I'm sure she'll spin quite a story. He softened slightly. You were good to me. A better mother-in-law than I deserved. Where's Ryan in all this? Learning some hard lessons about choices and consequences, Alan checked his watch. I should go. Take care of yourself, Elizabeth. You too, son. Remember, not all of us are on her side in this. After hanging up, Alan accessed his home office computer one last time. The secret camera feed from the garage showed May's recent late-night pattern, arriving home past 11, checking the mileage on her car's odometer, adjusting her clothes in the side mirror. Small deceptions, documented and dated. His phone buzzed a text from Ryan. Dad, can I get $50 for dinner with the team after practice? Alan typed back. Check your lunch account balance. Three dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared. Finally, it's saying insufficient funds? Must be a mistake. No mistake. Ask Jason for lunch money tomorrow. I'm sure he won't mind extending his generosity. Radio silence followed. Alan forwarded the conversation to Jane, adding it to the documentation pile. His next call was to Ryan's private school, Westbrook Academy. Mr. Kendricks? Alan Taylor. Regarding Ryan's tuition, the school administrator pulled up the records. Yes, Mr. Taylor. The next quarter's payment is due next week. Will you be using the same account? No. In fact, I'm calling to notify you I'm withdrawing financial responsibility for Ryan's education, effective immediately. Alan's tone remained professional. I've emailed documentation showing the tuition agreement was between myself and Westbrook. My wife was never a signatory. Silence filled the line. I see. This is unusual, Mr. Taylor. Ryan's a senior, nearly finished. His mother's been handling his college tours recently. I'm sure she has plans for his education going forward. Alan paused. You should also know the recent Lakers tickets and golf club membership charged to the school's parent association account weren't authorized by me. Those charges came through Mrs. Taylor's credentials. Mr. Kendricks typed audibly. The membership was endorsed by a Mr. Martinez, claiming business connection benefits for senior students. Interesting. You might want to review those transactions with your fraud department. Alan's voice hardened. I've built 3 additions to Westbrook Academy, Mr. Kendricks. Never once mixed business with personal gain. Think about that. The administrator cleared his throat. We'll investigate immediately. And Mr. Taylor? I'm sorry about this situation. Ryan's a good kid, despite recent changes in his attitude. Recent changes. That's diplomatic of you. Let's just say his new designer clothes and lunch deliveries haven't gone unnoticed by faculty. It's caused some social disruption. After finishing the call, Alan made one final round through the house. In the kitchen, he left the divorce papers in plain sight, accompanied by printed screenshots of Ryan's texts and May's financial transactions. His wedding ring sat atop the stack, a simple gold band, never quite matching May's upgraded diamonds. The security camera feed on his phone showed Ryan's soccer practice ending. May's car remained at the dealership, her regular Wednesday rendezvous right on schedule. Alan shouldered his father's old toolbox and walked through the garage, pausing at his workbench. Pinned to the corkboard was a faded photograph. 10-year-old Ryan holding his first hammer, grinning proudly beside a half-built treehouse. Alan unpinned it carefully, tucking it into his wallet. The space left behind stood out like a pale accusation against the darker cork. His phone buzzed again, Phil confirming the final transfers were complete. Everything Alan had built over 25 years, every contract and payment, now secured in new accounts. May's next shopping spree would hit a wall of insufficient funds. The last light faded as Alan climbed into his truck. Through the windshield, he studied the house he'd built, every window, every angle crafted by his hands. In the gathering dark, it looked like any other wealthy home in the neighborhood. But Alan knew its bones, its foundation, the strength hidden beneath its polished surface. Your move, he murmured, starting the engine. The truck pulled away quietly, leaving behind a house full of carefully laid traps and shattered illusions. In the garage, the new toolbox waited like a silent sentinel, ready to teach one final lesson about the difference between building a life and borrowing one. The night swallowed his taillights as Alan drove north, toward a small town where he'd recently won a contract to build a community center. Time to start over. Time to build something new. Behind him, his phone tracked multiple incoming calls. May, Ryan, the credit card company. Each one went unanswered, falling into the growing darkness like stones into a deep well. Some silences, after all, spoke louder than words. May's morning began with her usual confidence as she pulled into the Starbucks drive-thru, designer sunglasses perched on her perfectly highlighted hair. The barista's voice crackled through the speaker, taking her complex order of any sugar-free vanilla latte with almond milk, extra hot, light foam. That'll be $7.45, Mrs. Taylor. May held out her platinum card with manicured fingers, the same way she had hundreds of times before. The barista swiped once, twice, then frowned. I'm sorry, ma'am. It's showing declined. That's impossible. May's voice carried that particular tone of wealthy irritation. Try again. 3 attempts later, the line of cars behind her growing restless, May fumbled through her Gucci wallet for another card. Each swipe brought the same result: declined. Perhaps there's an issue with your system, she said, her composure cracking slightly. The teenage barista shrugged. System's fine, Mrs. Taylor. The other customers' cards are working. Burning with humiliation, May pulled out of the drive-thru, her phone already in hand. The banking app showed an error message. Account access restricted. Please contact your financial institution. Her fingers trembled as she dialed Alan's number. Straight to voicemail. Again. Mrs. Taylor? Her assistant's voice cut through the panic. Ryan's school is on line 1. They say it's urgent. May switched calls, her stomach churning. Ryan's panicked voice filled the car's Bluetooth speaker. Mom, something's wrong. His voice cracked with tension. My lunch account says insufficient funds. The bursar wants to talk about tuition. Honey, calm down. I'm sure it's just a technical. The school secretary interrupted. Mrs. Taylor, please hold. The European trip coordinator needs to speak with you. Before May could protest, another voice cut in. Mrs. Taylor, we're calling about Ryan's senior trip payment. The final installment has been reversed by the bank. Without immediate alternative payment, I'm afraid Ryan's spot will be forfeit. May's hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. Listen, there's been a mistake. My husband. Mom. Ryan's voice returned, higher with panic. They're saying I can't attend classes without the tuition payment. What's happening? May swung her BMW into a U-turn, tires squealing. I'm coming to the school. Don't worry, baby. I'll fix this. The 15-minute drive home took 8 minutes. May's heels clicked rapidly across the garage floor as she rushed inside, calling Alan's name. Silence answered. The master bedroom closet stopped her cold. Alan's side stood half empty, work boots and construction clothes gone. His dresser drawers hung open, vacant. The safe in their closet stood open empty except for a stack of papers and what looked like printed phone screenshots. May's hands shook as she lifted the first page. Divorce papers, already filed. Beneath them, printed copies of Ryan's text messages to Kevin, each one highlighted in stark yellow. The text about Jason, about the BMW drives, about preferring him as a father. No. May scattered the papers, diving for her phone. Jason, pick up. His voicemail greeted her. May's knees gave out as she sank onto the bed she'd shared with Alan for 20 years. The bed she'd slipped out of for late-night inventory meetings with Jason. Her phone buzzed the bank manager this time. Mrs. Taylor, I'm calling about unusual activity on your accounts. What accounts? May's voice sounded distant to her own ears. What's left? That's just it, Mrs. Taylor. The joint accounts have been closed. The investment portfolio liquidated. The credit cards canceled. Mr. Taylor's signature and documentation appear on all transactions. May's gaze fell on the garage security camera's blinking light. The same camera Alan had installed last month, citing neighborhood break-ins. The camera that had recorded her late-night returns, her careful odometer checks, her clothing adjustments in the car mirror. The garage held one final shock. The space where Alan's father's toolbox had sat for 17 years stood empty. In its place sat a brand-new replica, pristine and untouched, a silent mockery of everything broken and replaced. Ryan's calls continued to light up her phone. The school's bursar, the trip coordinator, the bank manager, each one demanding answers she couldn't provide. May stared at her reflection in the bedroom mirror, seeing for the first time how her designer clothes and perfect makeup looked like a cheap costume. In the garage, the security camera blinked steadily, recording her unraveling piece by piece. The sound of a car in the driveway sent her rushing to the window. But instead of Alan's truck, a sleek BMW M4 pulled up. Jason stepped out, his handsome face creased with worry. May, what's going on? The dealership's cards are all declining for the lunch order. She turned from the window, tears smearing her expensive mascara. In the garage, the new toolbox gleamed under fluorescent lights, while the camera recorded everything just as Alan had planned. The Westbrook Academy's administrative office buzzed with tension as May and Jason sat before Headmaster Richards, the mahogany desk between them feeling like a judge's bench. Mrs. Taylor, Richards adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses. Westbrook has always valued its relationship with your family. Mr. Taylor's construction company has been instrumental in our campus development. However, he slid forward a document. The tuition agreement bears only your husband's signature. Legally, we cannot continue Ryan's enrollment without payment. Surely we can work something out. Jason leaned forward, flashing the smile that had closed countless luxury car sales. I understand Alan's having some emotional difficulties, but Ryan's education shouldn't suffer. Richard's expression hardened. Mr. Martinez, while we appreciate your concern, you have no legal standing in this matter. He turned to May. Furthermore, the Parent Association has flagged several unauthorized charges. Lakers tickets? Golf club memberships? These are serious irregularities. Those were networking opportunities, May protested weakly. For Ryan's future. Speaking of Ryan's future, Richards continued, his college acceptance to Stanford is contingent on completing senior year at Westbrook. Without immediate payment. He left the sentence hanging. Jason cleared his throat. Perhaps I could. No. Richards cut him off. The school's policy is clear. Only legal guardians may handle tuition matters. He stood, signaling the meeting's end. Ryan can finish this week. After that, we'll prepare his transfer papers. Outside, the November wind whipped May's designer coat as they hurried to Jason's BMW. This is insane, she fumed. Alan can't just destroy everything we built. Jason's laugh held an edge. From what I've seen, Alan did the building. You just spent the proceeds. He loosened his Italian silk tie. Listen, about the tuition. May turned, hope rising. You said you'd help. Your bonus from the Q4 sale. Yeah, about that. Jason shifted uncomfortably. The dealership's investigating some irregularities in my accounts. And my ex-wife's lawyer is reviewing my finances for additional support payments. He ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair. The BMW's a dealer demo. I can't exactly. Can't what? May's voice rose. Can't help the woman who risked everything for you? The son you promised to mentor? Be reasonable, May. I never promise. You said you loved me. That Ryan deserved better than a blue-collar father who couldn't appreciate his potential. Jason's handsome features twisted. I said what closing the deal required. It's called sales, honey. You should know you've been selling Alan short for years. May's hand cracked across his face, leaving a red mark on his tan skin. You bastard. Reality check, sweetheart. Jason touched his cheek, eyes cold. You wanted the fantasy luxury cars, expensive dinners, VIP treatment. Alan wanted to build something real. Guess who made the better investment? May's phone buzzed. Another text from Ryan. Mom, Kevin's parents know everything. His dad canceled the construction contract with Alan's company. Everyone's talking. The social fallout hit like an avalanche. Within hours, Ryan's circle of wealthy friends evaporated. Parents who'd hired Alan's company for their homes suddenly remembered other commitments. The country club May had frequented became mysteriously booked whenever she called. At the dealership, whispers followed her through the corridors. Her office, once a testament to corporate success, felt like a glass cage. Every eye watched as her carefully curated world crumbled. Mrs. Taylor? Her assistant hovered in the doorway. The general manager wants to see you. The meeting was brief. Concerns about professional conduct. Questions about unauthorized use of dealer demo vehicles. References to the company's moral clause. We'll need your resignation by day's end, the GM concluded. And Mrs. Taylor? Mr. Martinez has accepted a transfer to our Phoenix location. Effective immediately. That evening, May sat alone in her pristine kitchen, surrounded by the life Alan had built. A life she traded for borrowed luxury and a car salesman's empty promises. Her phone displayed a banking app notification. Account balance, $742.16. She thought back to 2008, when the recession had threatened everything. Alan had taken jobs beneath his skill level, working nights and weekends to keep them afloat. She'd complained about his absence, the constant smell of drywall dust, never realizing he was laying the foundation that supported her designer lifestyle. The doorbell rang. Ryan stood there, his private school uniform wrinkled, eyes red. "Mom?" His voice cracked. "The guys at school. They're saying things about you and Jason. Dad's clients are calling their kids, telling them to stay away from me." He looked younger suddenly, more vulnerable. "What's going to happen to us?" May stared at her son, seeing for the first time how she'd let him trade his father's hard-earned wisdom for a borrowed BMW and empty promises. The garage security camera blinked steadily, recording this moment to another piece of evidence in Alan's methodically constructed case. "Pack your things," she managed. "We need to figure something out." "Figure what out?" Ryan's voice rose. "My college acceptance? My friends? Everything's gone." In the distance, a truck engine rumbled. For a moment, May's heart leapt, but it was just a delivery vehicle, not Alan's familiar pickup. In the garage, the new toolbox sat untouched, a silent reminder of the difference between men who built things and men who merely sold them. The reality Alan had orchestrated closed in like a perfectly constructed trap, leaving May to face the consequences of trading substance for surface, building for borrowing, and true love for a lease and luxury. 3 weeks felt like 3 years. May stood in the empty foyer of their once pristine home, watching as her collection of designer handbags disappeared into a consignment shop owner's van. Each Chanel, Gucci, and Louis Vuitton certificates of authenticity still pristine in their dust bags sold for a fraction of their original price. "That's all I can offer," the consignment owner said, writing a check. The market's saturated with luxury goods these days. Ryan trudged down the stairs, wearing plain clothes instead of his Westbrook uniform. His first day at Franklin Public High School loomed tomorrow. The Lakers tickets and BMW drives seemed like a distant dream now. Kevin's dad called, he muttered, slumping against the wall. "Said he's pulling out of the Thompson development project." Called Dad, the most principled contractor in the business, right before he hung up on me. May folded the consignment check barely enough to cover 1 month's mortgage. "We'll figure something out." "Like what, Mom?" Ryan's voice cracked with bitterness. "Jason's gone. Dad's gone. Stanford rescinded my early acceptance when they learned I couldn't finish at Westbrook. He kicked the baseboard Alan had installed years ago. Everything's gone because you couldn't keep your hands off your boss." "He wasn't my boss," May snapped, then caught herself. "I've hired a private investigator. Your father can't just disappear." "He didn't disappear," Ryan interrupted. "He left. Because of us." He pulled out his phone, showing her a contractor's website. "Look what Kevin sent me." The screen displayed a community center under construction 2 hours north. In the background of one photo, barely visible, Alan's distinctive red pickup truck. "I'm going to find him." Ryan grabbed his jacket. "Coming." The drive north felt endless. May's remaining credit card, a low-limit emergency card in her maiden name, barely covered the gas. They passed familiar sites where Alan had built homes, each one a testament to his reputation for quality work. The community center rose at the edge of a small town, its skeleton of steel and concrete reaching toward gray November skies. Workers in hard hats moved purposefully across the site. And there, directing operations from beside a cement mixer, stood Alan. He'd lost weight, May noticed. His shoulders looked harder, his stance more rigid. The wedding ring was gone from his left hand as he gestured to his crew, explaining something about the foundation pour. Ryan stepped out of the car before May could stop him. "Dad." Alan's head turned slightly, he'd heard. But his hands never stopped working, spreading cement with practiced precision. Ryan approached the safety barrier, his voice breaking. "Dad, please. I messed up. I didn't mean those things." The cement mixer's rhythm filled the silence. Other workers glanced between father and son, then busied themselves elsewhere. Alan continued smoothing the wet concrete, each stroke methodical. "I know now," Ryan continued, gripping the barrier. "About everything you did for us. The recession jobs, the extra hours, Stanford's tuition savings." His voice caught. "Jason's gone. Transferred to Phoenix when things got tough. Just like you said, men who build things versus men who sell them." Alan's hands stilled for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice carrying across the site. Funny how you didn't mean it, but you still let him play dad while I worked overtime for your future. Alan, May stepped forward. We can fix this. Fix. He turned then, cement dust coating his work clothes. Like you fixed our marriage with your dealership boyfriend? Or how you fixed Ryan's character with borrowed cars and courtside seats? His laugh held no warmth. Some things can't be fixed, May. They have to be rebuilt. From the ground up. We'll do better, she pleaded. Give us another chance. Another chance? Alan set down his trowel, eyes hard. You had 20 years of chances. 20 years of me building something real while you dreamed of something borrowed. He gestured to the community center rising behind him. This is real. Every beam, every nail, every yard of concrete, it'll stand long after that leased BMW is junk. Ryan stepped closer to the barrier. Dad, I'll transfer schools. Get a job. Learn the business from the bottom up. Bottom up? Alan's voice turned thoughtful. Funny you mentioned that. Got a call from Stanford's engineering department. Seems they're interested in practical experience as much as private school transcripts. Told them about a kid who might want to learn construction from the foundation up. He paused. Their response is in your old room, under the new toolbox. Hope flickered across Ryan's face, then died. But you're not coming back. Back? No. Alan picked up his trowel again. Forward? Maybe. Depends on what you build from here. He turned back to his work. Choose carefully, son. Borrowed things get repossessed. Built things last. May watched her son's shoulders slump as Alan resumed working, the cement mixer's rhythm drowning out any response. Around them, the community center continued rising each beam and bore a testament to the difference between building a life and borrowing one. The drive home stretched longer than the journey out. Ryan stared at his hands, soft, uncalloused hands that had never known real work. In the passenger seat, May's designer watch caught the setting sun, its face reflecting a future suddenly stripped of artificial shine. Alan's words hung between them. Some things had to be rebuilt from the ground up. The question was, would they recognize themselves once the reconstruction began? The for sale sign swayed in the winter wind as May supervised the movers packing up the last remnants of her life with Alan. The real estate agent had warned her the housing market was down, and the mortgage would eat most of their equity. Still, she hadn't expected such a paltry sum. Mrs. Taylor? The moving foreman approached with a clipboard. There's an issue with the payment. May closed her eyes. Of course. Her finance manager salary, once a point of pride, barely covered essentials now. The two-bedroom apartment she'd found in a less desirable part of town waited, its beige walls and worn carpet a far cry from the home Alan had crafted. Mom. Ryan stood in the doorway of his old room, now empty except for Alan's brand-new toolbox still untouched. Mr. Peterson called. The garage needs an answer about the job. The local repair shop had offered Ryan an entry-level position. Minimum wage, oil changes, tire rotations work that would have been beneath him 3 months ago. Now, with college plans derailed and savings gone, it looked like salvation. Take it, May said, her voice hollow. We need the income. Ryan nodded, already pulling up the shop's number. His designer clothes had been replaced by practical wear, his manicured hands beginning to show the first signs of real work. The transformation hurt to watch. Later that evening, in their new apartment, May unpacked boxes while Ryan assembled second-hand furniture. The walls were thin enough to hear their neighbors arguing about unpaid bills, a conversation that hit too close to home. Jason called, Ryan said suddenly, tightening a bolt on a wobbly table. From Phoenix. May's hands stilled on a box of kitchen items. And asked if we needed money. Ryan's laugh held no humor. Said he felt bad about everything. Then mentioned his ex-wife's lawyer found out about us, and he's facing a bigger divorce settlement. Wanted to know if you'd testify that nothing happened until after his separation. That bastard. May slumped against the counter. After everything he promised. Like what, Mom? That he'd replace Dad? Ryan's voice hardened. That his borrowed BMW and Lakers tickets meant something? Dad tried to tell me the difference between earning something and borrowing it. A notification lit up May's phone, her bank's overtime deposit. The finance manager position she'd been so proud of now felt like a joke. She remembered Alan's words about the 2008 recession, how he'd taken any job available to keep them afloat. At the time, she complained about his long hours and dirty work clothes. Now she understood the quiet dignity in his choices. "Your father," she began. "Don't." Ryan stood abruptly. "Don't talk about Dad. You traded everything he built for a guy who leases luxury cars and runs when things get tough." He grabbed his keys to a used Honda Civic, bought with his savings, not a borrowed BMW. "I've got training at the garage. Peterson says if I learn quick enough, he might move me to actual repairs by spring." After Ryan left, May wandered their small apartment. The furniture was functional but cheap, nothing like the custom pieces Alan had built. The windows looked out on a parking lot instead of the manicured lawn he'd maintained. Even the air felt different, stale and confined, missing the scent of wood and honest work that had permeated their old home. Her phone buzzed again, another bill notification. The designer wardrobe she'd once flaunted at charity events had been sold piece by piece. Her social circle, built around Alan's success and reputation, had evaporated. Even her job felt precarious, rumors of dealership downsizing circulating after Jason's hasty departure. In the kitchen, May found Ryan's first garage paycheck stub. The amount seemed pitiful compared to the allowance they used to give him, but his scribbled calculations showed careful budgeting, a lesson Alan had tried to teach for years. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd pushed Ryan toward Jason's flashy lifestyle, believing Alan's emphasis on hard work was outdated. Now their son was learning his father's values the hard way, one oil change at a time. A text from the real estate agent interrupted her thoughts. "Final papers ready. Buyer offering 15% below asking. Recommend accepting, markets not improving." May typed back her agreement, then opened her banking app. After the mortgage settlement, she'd have barely enough for 3 months' rent. Her salary would cover basics, but the lifestyle she'd known, the one Alan had built while she dreamed of something more exciting, was gone. Through the thin walls, she heard their neighbors again. A child crying about changing schools, a mother promising things would get better. May's eyes fell on Alan's new toolbox, still sitting untouched in Ryan's room, a silent reminder of the difference between building something real and chasing borrowed dreams. Tomorrow, Ryan would return to the garage, learning the value of honest work. May would return to the dealership, watching others sell the luxury she'd once thought she deserved. And somewhere north, Alan would continue building, his hands creating something lasting while she lived with the consequences of destroying what he'd already built. The winter wind rattled their apartment windows, cheaper glass, poorly installed. May remembered how Alan had upgraded their home's windows himself, explaining the importance of proper sealing and materials. Another lesson she dismissed as boring, now understanding too late the difference between appearance and substance. 6 months of manual labor had transformed Ryan in ways no private school education could have. His hands, once soft from privileged ease, now bore the marks of honest work. The morning sun was barely rising as he pulled his used Honda into the construction site where his father's latest project took shape. Gripping a new toolbox purchased with 3 months of garage overtime pay, Ryan watched the crew arrive. Each worker nodded to Alan with genuine respect, a far cry from the false deference Jason had commanded at the dealership. "Site's not open to visitors," a foreman called out, noticing Ryan. Alan turned at the voice, his expression unchanging as he recognized his son. The past 6 months had weathered him too, but differently. He stood straighter, unburdened by pretense. "I'm not visiting." Ryan lifted the toolbox. "I'm here to work. Got your certifications?" Alan's voice was professional, detached. "OSHA requirements?" Ryan reached into his back pocket, producing neatly folded papers. "Level 1 construction safety certification. Been studying nights after garage shifts." He swallowed hard. "Mr. Peterson, my boss at the garage, he wrote a reference letter to." Alan examined the documents while his crew pretended not to watch. "Says here you've developed good diagnostic skills. Attention to detail. Strong work ethic." His eyes met Ryan's. "Peterson's not easily impressed. Learned that working my way up from oil changes." Ryan shifted his weight. "Started reading engineering textbooks too. The community college offers night classes in construction management." A ghost of a smile touched Alan's lips. "Thought you were too good for community college." Wasn't Stanford your dream? Stanford was Mom's dream. And Jason's. Ryan's voice hardened at the name. I've got different dreams now. Want to build something real, not borrow someone else's success. Alan studied his son, not the entitled teenager who'd mocked his life's work in texts, but a young man beginning to understand the value of earned wisdom. The crew had stopped pretending not to listen, their own stories of hard lessons learned reflected in Ryan's transformation. Your hands, Alan noted. Show me. Ryan held them out calloused, oil-stained, bearing a fresh cut from a stubborn transmission. Working hands, learning hands, so different from the manicured fingers that had once driven Jason's leased BMW. Mom sold the house, Ryan said quietly. The one you built. Some developers tearing it down, putting up cheap condos. Foundations matter, Alan replied. In buildings and life. Can't put luxury finishes on shaky ground. I know that now. Ryan placed his toolbox beside a stack of lumber. The garage taught me you can't rush skill. Can't fake experience. Every engine I fix, every problem I solve. It's like you always said. Building knowledge from the ground up. Alan picked up a set of blueprints. We're short a materials runner. Basic work fetching supplies, learning inventory. $7 an hour less than your garage job. He paused. But you'll learn every piece that goes into making something stand. When do I start? Now. Alan handed him a hard hat. Safety first. Like I taught you with that treehouse. The memory hit Ryan hard summer afternoons. Alan patiently explaining load-bearing joints, the importance of level foundations. Lessons he dismissed for Jason's empty promises of networking and shortcuts. About that treehouse, Ryan reached into his toolbox, pulling out a worn photograph. Found this in Mom's stuff while packing. Remember? Alan took the photo younger versions of themselves, building together, Ryan proudly holding his first hammer. Behind them, the half-finished treehouse stood like a promise. You wore those work boots I bought you for weeks, Alan said. Even to bed, your mother said. Got new ones now. Ryan gestured to his steel-toed boots. Earned them myself. For a moment, father and son stood silent, the photo between them bridging 6 months of absence. Around them, the construction site hummed with purpose, concrete being poured, frames rising, each worker contributing to something larger than themselves. One condition, Alan finally said. You keep the garage job weekends. Finish what you started there. No walking away when things get tough, like Mom and Jason did. Their choices, their consequences. Alan tucked the photo into his shirt pocket. We build differently. The sun climbed higher as Ryan joined the crew, learning each person's role, understanding how individual efforts united in common purpose. During breaks, he watched Alan interact with his workers, no pretense, no borrowed authority, just earned respect and shared pride in creation. By day's end, Ryan's new toolbox bore its first scratches, his certified safety papers had their first construction site creases, and his understanding of building bridges encompassed more than just physical structures. As the crew packed up, Alan paused. Community college courses you mentioned, they're not cheap. Been saving. Ryan shouldered his toolbox. Might take longer, but I'll earn it. No shortcuts this time. Alan nodded, then reached into his truck, pulling out a thick envelope. Your college fund. Never touched it. Been waiting to see if you'd build something worth investing in. Ryan stared at the envelope, understanding its weight represented more than money. I won't waste it this time. I know. Alan's voice held certainty. Because this time, you're building your own foundation. As Ryan drove home to his mother's small apartment, his new hard hat on the passenger seat, he realized some bridges couldn't be bought or borrowed. They had to be built, one honest day's work at a time. 1 year had transformed the small northern town into Alan's new territory. His construction company's reputation for quality work spread through the community like roots seeking solid ground. The modest house he'd purchased a fixer-upper far below his means stood half-renovated, its improvements coming second to client projects. On this particular Sunday morning, Alan reviewed project bids at his scarred kitchen table when a familiar Honda Civic pulled into his gravel driveway. Ryan emerged, dressed in work clothes despite the weekend, clutching an envelope and what looked like rolled blueprints. Thought you'd be at the garage. Alan said as Ryan entered through the unlocked door. Peterson promoted me to lead mechanic last month. Pride, earned rather than borrowed, colored Ryan's voice. Trained my replacement yesterday. Got something to show you. The envelope contained an acceptance letter from the local university's engineering program. Not Stanford's manicured lawns and legacy admissions, but a school that valued practical experience alongside academic achievement. Full scholarship, Ryan explained, spreading out the blueprints. Between the garage work, your crew time, and community college credits, they saw what they needed to see. Alan studied the technical drawings Ryan's first solo project for his construction management course. The details showed understanding born of hands-on experience, not textbook theory. "Mom's seen these?" Alan asked, noting the precision in each measurement. "She's different now." Ryan pulled up a kitchen chair, the movement comfortable with earned confidence. "The apartment's small, but she's paying her own way. Even started teaching finance classes at the Adult Education Center. Says she finally understands what you meant about building versus borrowing. And Jason, last we heard, he's selling used cars in Phoenix. His ex-wife's lawyer found evidence of other affairs. Lost his finance license." Ryan traced a load-bearing calculation on his blueprints. "Funny how hollow everything he offered looks now." Alan nodded, remembering May's designer lifestyle built on his labor. Sometimes the most expensive lessons are the ones we don't think we need to learn. Speaking of lessons, Ryan reached into his work bag, extracting a weathered photo album. "Found this while organizing Mom's storage unit. Remember this day?" The photograph showed the completed treehouse Alan and young Ryan standing proud before their first joint project. The boy's hands were bandaged from rookie mistakes, but his smile spoke of earned achievement. "You insisted on sanding every board yourself," Alan recalled. "Wouldn't let me help when you got splinters. Said I had to earn my calluses." Ryan's laugh held newfound understanding. "Wish I'd remembered that lesson before." "Everything?" Alan studied his son, no longer the entitled teenager seduced by borrowed luxury, but a young man who'd rebuilt himself from the foundation up. The past year's transformation showed in more than just his hardened hands and weathered work boots. "Got a new project starting," Alan said, pulling out his own set of blueprints. "Community center expansion. Load calculations look familiar?" Ryan examined the drawings, recognition dawning. "These are based on my design from engineering class. Town council approved the modifications. If you want to see your first real project take shape." Alan let the offer hang. "I've got vacation time saved at the garage. Been waiting for the right project to use it." Their discussion of construction details was interrupted by Alan's phone, a text from May. Ryan caught the brief hesitation before his father handed him the phone. "Found this while packing winter storage," May's message read. Attached was a photo of Alan's original toolbox, the one he'd used to teach Ryan. "It belongs with you both now. I finally understand what it represents." Ryan zoomed in on the worn leather and steel that had shaped his earliest lessons. "She's not the same person who chose Jason's borrowed glamour over your built stability. People change," Alan said simply. "Question is, are they building something better from the wreckage?" The morning sun streamed through windows Alan had installed himself, illuminating father and son surrounded by blueprints and possibilities. Outside, his truck waited for Monday's work, its bed loaded with materials for honest labor. "Some things," Alan said, reaching for his ever-present hammer, "you have to build yourself." Ryan smiled, understanding the weight of the moment. "And some things," he added, "are worth rebuilding." Together, they bent over the community center plans, calculating measurements and checking angles. The morning passed in comfortable focus, each man adding his expertise to their shared vision. No borrowed prestige, no shortcuts, just the quiet satisfaction of creating something real. As shadows lengthened, Ryan gathered his blueprints. "Mom asked about you." "Not for herself," he added quickly. "Said she hopes you found what you were always trying to build." Alan glanced around his modest home, at the half-finished renovations that represented his new life. Never lost sight of it. Just had to clear away some unstable additions. The Honda's engine turned over as Ryan prepared to leave. Through the windshield, he watched his father return to the porch, not the man who had silently funded a privileged lifestyle, but the builder who had taught him life's most valuable lesson. Lasting things come from honest labor. The sunset painted the northern sky as father and son parted ways, each returning to the foundations they'd chosen to build upon. Their shared future would rise like the community center, one carefully measured beam at a time, supported by understanding earned through sweat and time. Some distances couldn't be bridged with borrowed luxury or leased prestige. But with enough honest work and true materials, even the deepest foundations could be rebuilt stronger for having known what it meant to fall. Epilogue. 5 years later. The autumn sun cast long shadows across Taylor Construction's newly expanded headquarters. Where once stood a modest site office, now rose a 3-story testament to earned success. Alan surveyed the property from his simple office, walls adorned not with certificates of prestige, but with framed blueprints, each marking a milestone in rebuilding his life. A sleek Tesla pulled into the visitors' parking, drawing his attention. May stepped out, her designer clothes replaced by practical business wear, her once perfect manicure now serviceable and worn. 5 years had etched lines around her eyes that no expensive cream could hide. She wasn't here to see Alan; those bridges had long since been designated unsalvageable. Instead, she was attending Ryan's project presentation. Their son, now head of Taylor Construction's engineering division, had risen through merit rather than manipulation. The conference room filled with investors and town council members. May slipped into a back seat, watching Ryan command the room with quiet confidence. His presentation detailed the company's latest development, affordable housing built with innovative, sustainable materials. No flash, no borrowed prestige, just solid plans built on proven foundations. The Taylor Standard, Ryan explained, gesturing to projected figures, means building for generations, not just immediate profit. His eyes met his mother's briefly. We've learned the cost of choosing appearance over substance. In the front row, Ryan's wife Sarah beamed. They'd met at the garage where he'd started rebuilding his life. She'd been a customer with a stubborn transmission problem. Their courtship had progressed like one of Alan's projects. Carefully, honestly, with a solid foundation. After the presentation, May lingered, watching Alan congratulate his son. Their relationship had weathered the storm, emerging stronger for having been tested. Her own relationship with Ryan remained a work in progress. Weekly dinners in her modest apartment, conversations that carefully avoided mentioning Jason. The past 5 years had taught May hard lessons about the price of choices. Her finance manager position had ended when the dealership downsized, Jason's mismanagement having finally caught up with the books. The adult education center where she now taught basic financial literacy paid less, but offered something she'd never found in luxury: purpose. Through local business circles, occasional news of Jason reached her. Each update reinforced the wisdom of Alan's early assessment about men who built things versus men who sold them. The former BMW sales manager now worked at a struggling used car lot in Phoenix, his license to sell securities permanently revoked after investigations revealed a pattern of fraud. His ex-wife had won everything in their second divorce, his pattern of affairs providing ample ammunition. The last May heard, he lived in a rented room, making payments on debts that would follow him for decades. The leased BMW and borrowed prestige had vanished like morning fog under harsh sun. "Mom?" Ryan's voice interrupted her thoughts. "Sarah and I wanted to ask you something." May turned to find her son and daughter-in-law, their expressions suggesting news. Sarah's hand rested unconsciously on her stomach, and May understood. "We're due in March," Sarah explained, her smile genuine. "We'd like you to be involved, but there are conditions," Ryan finished. His tone held no cruelty, just hard-earned wisdom. "No designer baby boutiques. No exclusive preschool applications. Our child will learn values from the ground up, like Dad taught me." Eventually, May nodded, accepting these terms as part of her ongoing penance. "I'd like that. To see a proper foundation being laid from the start this time." Across the room, Alan discussed technical specifications with his project managers. His company had grown, but not through flashy acquisitions or leveraged buyouts. Each expansion came from proven results, each contract earned through demonstrated quality. The modest house he'd renovated had become a home, its improvements made with care rather than show. He'd never remarried. Building something real meant acknowledging when some structures couldn't be salvaged. As the meeting dispersed, May found herself alone in the conference room. Through the window, she watched Alan and Ryan head to the construction yard, their matching work boots raising dust as they discussed the day's tasks. A framed photo on the wall caught her eye, the old treehouse, with young Ryan and Alan standing proud. Beside it hung a recent addition, Ryan and Sarah on their wedding day, posed not in front of a luxury venue, but at the community center Alan had been building when Ryan first sought redemption. The same center that now hosted May's financial literacy classes, where she taught others about the true cost of choosing appearance over substance. Her phone buzzed a news alert about Jason. Another fraud investigation, another set of charges. His pattern hadn't changed, only the scale of his deceptions had diminished. The man who'd once sold dreams of luxury now couldn't even maintain the illusion of success. May's tiny apartment waited across town, its rent consuming a significant portion of her teaching salary. The complex wasn't in the best neighborhood, but it was honest, like the life she'd rebuilt from the wreckage of her choices. The next generation of Taylors would grow up understanding the difference between earned wisdom and borrowed prestige. May's grandchild would learn early lessons she'd learned too late, that foundations matter, that lasting things take time to build, and that some debts can't be repaid with money. As she walked to her sensible used car, all she could afford on her new salary, May passed the wall of completed projects in Taylor Construction's lobby. Each photo represented something Alan had built, each structure standing as testament to the difference between his path and Jason's. The final photo showed the company's latest project breaking ground. In the image, 3 generations of Taylors stood together. Alan with his quiet strength, Ryan with his earned wisdom, and Sarah carrying their future. May wasn't in the photo, some absences were earned too. Her apartment that evening felt smaller than usual as she graded papers from her financial literacy students. Each worksheet represented someone trying to build security from honest foundations. On her modest desk sat the last remnant of her previous life. The broken clasp of a designer bracelet Jason had given her, kept not as treasure but as reminder. The local news ran a feature on Taylor Construction's affordable housing project. The reporter praised their commitment to quality over quick profit, highlighting the contrast with recent housing developments that emphasized luxury finishes over structural integrity. The segment included a brief interview with Ryan, his confident expertise evident as he explained construction principles. May noticed he wore the same type of work boots as Alan, not for show but for function. In the background, she glimpsed Sarah touring the site, one hand resting on her growing belly, the next generation already learning about building things right. Her phone contained a final text from Jason, sent months ago during his latest downturn. "Remember when we had it all?" She'd never responded, finally understanding that they'd never had anything real, only borrowed time and leased luxury. As night fell over her small apartment, May opened her teaching notes for tomorrow's class. Building financial foundations. The irony didn't escape her. She'd learned the hard way that true wealth came not from what you could borrow, but from what you built to last. Somewhere across town, Alan and Ryan probably worked late at the office, planning tomorrow's projects with the same attention to detail that had rebuilt their relationship. Sarah likely waited at their modest but well-built home, understanding the value of men who created rather than consumed. And in Phoenix, Jason undoubtedly chased another scheme, another shortcut, another borrowed dream, never learning the lesson that had cost May everything to understand. Some things had to be built, not bought. Some foundations had to be earned, not leased. And some choices carve themselves into the bedrock of your life, teaching future generations the price of trading substance for show. The next morning would find each of them exactly where their choices had led. Alan building, Ryan learning, Sarah growing, Jason scheming, and May teaching others to avoid her mistakes. Each of them standing on foundations they'd chosen or failed to build. Some debts, after all, accrued interest measured not in dollars, but in wisdom. And some lessons, once learned, stood as permanent as Alan's structures, monuments to the difference between building a life and borrowing one.
This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy the story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.